Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom, the show where gut microbes and humor collide. I'm Ethan Foster, your resident observer of the human condition. I keep my commentary drier than a quinoa cracker left in the desert sun, but that's only because I like to savor the details. And I'm here with my illustrious co-host.
Alara Sky, sharp mind, sharper tongue, proud comedic enthusiast, and lover of all things natural health. Today we're diving into the microscopic realm that shapes our entire existence, the gut microbiome. Think of it as a cosmic disco inside your digestive tract, except the dancers are tiny bacteria, and the tunes are short-chain fatty acids.
I'm already pondering how I can turn that image into a coffee table conversation starter. Hello, do you know there's a cosmic disco in my gut? I feel like this line at a dinner party would ensure I dine alone.
Considering your comedic style, I'm sure you could make it work. But let's talk about why we're here. We're exploring how gut microbes produce and use energy, how they may have helped primates like us grow big brains, and how supporting our gut health might just keep our brains functioning at a level that allows us to catch up on all those streaming shows guilt-free.
Right? And apparently, it's not just about picking the right kale at the grocery store. It's about the dynamic interplay between our gut bacteria and our big old primate brains. Bigger brains, it turns out, correlate with gut microbiota that lean toward energy usage rather than energy storage.
That's something we humans can appreciate, especially those of us who check for instant energy in every other supplement. The gut microbes we carry around actually help generate energy, produce short-chain fatty acids, lovely abbreviations like SCFAs for those who like to wow their friends with acronyms, and they play a huge role in controlling how we store fat or produce glucose.
So, to lay the table, the research reveals that larger-brained primates have gut microbiota that create more energy for the body and the brain. Smaller-brained primates have microbiota that stockpile energy. It's sort of a choose-your-own-adventure scenario. Do you use that energy now for your cunning, strategic brain? Or save it for the next big famine and keep things, well, cushioned?
If I were a small-brained primate, I'd say, well, good day, dear famine, I'm prepared. But as a modern human who enjoys having a functional brain, I'm grateful for the gut microbes that promote brain energy usage. It's basically the difference between fueling your top-tier Netflix binge-watching cognition or just being well-padded for winter.
Let's dive in deeper. The short-chain fatty acids like acetate and propionate are front and center. These guys help with glucose production and reduce fat storage. Or in simpler comedic terms, they might be the difference between I ate a cupcake and that cupcake took permanent residence around my waist.
Exactly. SCFAs are like the friend at the dinner table who quietly reminds you to keep your portions reasonable. Alara, they whisper, you don't need that third helping of mashed potatoes. Then they scurry off to help your body convert some of that potato glory into actual fuel.
But how do we figure all this out? Apparently, researchers inoculated germ-free mice with gut microbiota from 3 primates: macaques, squirrel monkeys, and humans. Each species has different brain sizes and distinct metabolic traits. And of course, the mice presumably had no say in the matter.
I picture a mouse in a lab coat with a tiny protest sign. We'd like to consult with our agent about these living arrangements. But no. They bravely stepped up to host microbiota from various primates. The results were pretty revealing. Mice with the microbiota of larger-brained primates ended up with more robust energy production, better glucose levels, and lower body fat percentages.
It's reminiscent of those clothing swap parties. You hand your friend that questionable sweater from the back of your closet, and suddenly they make it look runway ready. The difference is, the mice ended up with improved metabolic runway walks, courtesy of the gut microbes from high EQ primates.
Precisely. The bigger-brained primate microbiota also produced higher levels of SCFAs, like acetate and propionate, boosting energy in the body and possibly the brain. So now we see how that cosmic disco inside our digestive tracts can actually power the biggest energy sucker in our bodies, our beloved brains.
Right? The cosmic disco is fueling the synaptic light show in our skulls. It's a sweet deal. And it's not just about providing more energy for Netflix marathons. A properly fueled brain can handle critical thinking, problem-solving, maybe even advanced comedic timing.
Wait, you're telling me that my comedic timing might hinge on the right combination of gut microbes producing propionate? Now that's a performance supplement I never saw coming.
Indeed. We might just need a brand new sub-branch of showbiz advice. Got stage fright? Optimize your SCFAs.
Now let's move beyond the science of how it happens to the application. Most of our listeners aren't in the business of injecting themselves with microbiota from squirrel monkeys. At least I'd hope not. So, how do we support our gut in everyday life?
I've heard you're prepared with a short list, so I'll pass the baton. I'm hoping it's not as terrifying as my daily to-do list, which always includes clean the garage, a task that I avoid at all costs.
Fear not, dear co-host. We have 4 fairly straightforward ways to give your gut microbiome a big, warm hug.
Nourish beneficial bacteria with healthy carbohydrates.
Nurture a carbon dioxide-rich environment and eliminate harmful foods.
Optimize SCFA production while protecting the gut barrier.
Protect mitochondrial function with healthy fats.
Let's tackle these one by one. Firstly, we have nourish beneficial bacteria with healthy carbohydrates. Are we saying that bread can be my friend again?
Let's not get carried away with bread fantasies, Ethan. I'm talking about proper fiber-rich carbohydrates that come in natural, unprocessed forms. Think whole fruits with pulp, for example. You scale up slowly, and if your gut is severely compromised, you may need to be cautious with certain fibrous foods initially.
So the idea is you feed the good guys without feeding the shady neighbors in your gut?
Exactly. We want to keep the beneficial bacteria thriving. If your gut is in dire shape, you might not be able to handle as many complex carbs at first. But once you get stronger, you incrementally increase those healthy carbs. The beneficial bacteria get their fiber feast, and you get better SCFA production for your brain.
Right. Our second strategy is about nurturing a carbon dioxide-rich environment and eliminating harmful foods. That's quite a mouthful. So basically, we're saying, don't over-oxygenate your digestion. And by the way, skip processed junk.
That's a neat translation. When we talk about carbon dioxide in the body, we're talking about how cells actually produce energy in a balanced, efficient manner. Stress management plays a big role here. Over-exercising right after a meal can disrupt digestion because blood flow goes to your muscles instead of your gut. Also, vegetable oils, ultra-processed foods, and certain nuts can wreak havoc on your gut barrier. It's like inviting termites to dinner.
So no sprinting up a mountain the moment you swallow your last bite of salad, noted. And I'll avoid the dinner guest named vegetable oil.
Good plan. Third on the list is optimize SCFA production while protecting the gut barrier. That means you want those short-chain fatty acids doing their job, supporting energy, feeding your brain, and helping maintain the integrity of your gut lining, without spiking endotoxin levels.
So that means introducing fiber mindfully, because if you dump too much fiber into a compromised gut, you might as well give your body the script for Night of the Living endotoxins.
Exactly. We don't want that. We want a measured approach, letting the good bacteria churn out SCFAs while avoiding the zombie apocalypse scenario in our colon.
Lastly, we have protect mitochondrial function with healthy fats. So the big lesson is ditch the vegetable oils, right?
Correct. Vegetable oils are basically the frenemy of the gut. They undermine your mitochondria, those tiny energy powerhouses, and they also mess with your gut bacteria. Good old-fashioned fats like grass-fed butter, tallow, or ghee are better for cooking and general well-being.
I'm always on board with the word butter, but let's say someone's gut is so compromised they can't even handle looking at a bran muffin without a meltdown. That's where more specialized strategies come in, right?
Yes, some people literally can't jump straight into munching on high-fiber foods. Their gut is like a squeaky door that needs gentle, gradual oiling. That's when we talk about approaches that can limit troublesome bacteria first, such as a lower-carb or carnivore-like diet for a short time to starve out the bad guys. But eventually, you do need carbohydrates for muscle maintenance and to keep stress hormones in check.
So it's like putting your gut on a short elimination trip. Then you transition back to moderate carbs once you've repaired your system.
Precisely. Another tactic is something Dr. Mercola describes in his newest book, Cellular Health, where people can use dextrose water if they're very ill. Because dextrose is absorbed in the small intestine, it won't feed the bacteria in the large intestine that produce endotoxin. That helps people maintain some carbohydrate intake without the drama.
I like the phrase without the drama, because the last thing we want is an epic meltdown in the colon. So once the gut is on the mend, you reintroduce fruits, vegetables, and other fibrous foods in moderation.
You got it. Meanwhile, certain foods and supplements like pomegranate extract and citrus bioflavonoids can reinforce the mucus layer of the gut. That's basically the moat around the castle. You want that moat strong, so the beneficial bacteria can thrive safely inside.
So that's the Game of Thrones approach to gut health. Build a strong fortress.
Exactly. On top of that, you manage stress. Because ironically, stress can also break down your gut barrier. You're basically giving the invading hordes a personal invitation if you're perpetually worried about your next tax bill.
The idea of my gut barrier being assaulted by my property tax statements is a new concept, but I get the point. Lower stress, keep your carbon dioxide balanced, and practice slow breathing.
Right. Traditional meditation, if done improperly, can lead to hyperventilation, dropping carbon dioxide levels. That's not great for your gut environment. We need a calm approach, with slow, steady breathing that keeps carbon dioxide at a healthy level. That helps drive oxygen to your tissues, including your gut lining, so you can properly digest and power up your friendly microbes.
So, if you're going to do some mindful breathing, do it gently. No need to pant like a dog in a desert.
Yes, exactly. Picture yourself as a wise old tortoise, calmly inhaling and exhaling at a leisurely pace, letting your gut do its restoration work.
Now, I want to pivot back to that earlier bit about SCFAs crossing the blood-brain barrier, because that felt like a pretty big revelation. We always hear about the blood-brain barrier as a fortress, and yet these short-chain fatty acids just waltz right in?
They do, and they don't even need to bribe the gatekeepers. SCFAs can serve as direct fuel for the brain or act as signaling molecules that help regulate metabolic processes. That means your mood, your focus, your ability to come up with snappy comebacks, there's a chance these can all be influenced by your friendly gut microbes.
So, when we say food for thought, we might actually mean acetate and propionate, possibly the most unromantic phrase for a Valentine's Day card, but quite scientifically valid.
If you ever write a Valentine's Day card to me referencing propionate, Ethan, I'll be flattered by your scientific sincerity, though I might question how many gut microbiology papers you read that morning.
One can never read too many gut microbiology papers, especially if it means unlocking comedic potential. And speaking of comedic potential, there's an interesting angle in how the bigger-brained primates use that extra energy for neurological development. This was probably key in our own human evolution, right?
Absolutely. Our ancestors had to feed these hungry brains, and the gut microbiota rose to the challenge, pumping out extra energy. That might explain why we started inventing fancy tools, exploring complex social structures, and eventually creating streaming services to watch stand-up specials.
So, from an evolutionary standpoint, the disco in our guts gave us enough energetic ammo to write the Magna Carta, chart the seas, and produce everything from Beethoven's symphonies to corny knock-knock jokes, all thanks to billions of tiny bacteria.
When you put it that way, it sounds both mind-boggling and perfectly logical. Over the millennia, these microscopic allies shaped who we are. They helped us develop bigger brains, which then allowed us to do, well, everything from democracy to comedic podcasts about gut health.
Indeed. So, if we want to thank them, we should keep them comfy, feed them what they like, and avoid the modern food toxins that show them the door. Because as soon as we step out of alignment, we risk letting the energy production wane or letting harmful microbes overthrow the beneficial ones.
True. The notion of you are what you eat is starting to sound more like you are what your gut microbiome decides to do with what you eat. If we feed it junk, we get negative outcomes. If we feed it properly, we get a stable metabolism and an energized brain.
And if we refuse to manage stress, we might sabotage our own gut environment. It's like we're the hotel manager who keeps knocking on our guests' doors at 3 a.m. with a leaf blower, then complains the next morning, "Why are these patrons checking out and leaving bad reviews?"
Exactly. We have to be good hosts.
Speaking of hosting, we've covered a lot of ground. Let me try to summarize.
Gut microbes in larger-brained primates favor energy production and usage, while smaller-brained primates store more energy as fat.
SCFAs like acetate and propionate are instrumental in fueling your brain and helping your metabolism run smoothly.
Research with germ-free mice confirmed that bigger-brained primate microbiota lead to leanness, higher glucose production, and an energy metabolism shift, favoring usage rather than storage.
We can support our gut and, by extension, our brains by consuming healthy carbohydrates, managing carbon dioxide levels, optimizing SCFA production, and using healthy fats.
If your gut is severely compromised, start by limiting problematic foods, possibly adopting a low-carb approach temporarily, and then work your way toward tolerating more complex carbs as you heal.
Pomegranate extract, citrus bioflavonoids, and stress management, particularly slow breathing, round out the plan.
That's a neat bullet point overview, Ethan. I appreciate your tidy mind. I'd only add that these short-chain fatty acids are an ever-present reminder that the little guys can have huge impacts. We might think we're in charge because we're bigger, but actually these bacteria shape so much of what happens inside us.
So next time you're wondering why you're feeling energized or sluggish, you might look in the mirror and say, "How are you doing in there, guys?" And if you listen closely, maybe you'll sense them dancing to their cosmic disco track, fueling your big, creative brain.
If they answer you back verbally, though, that might be a different issue. Let's keep it metaphorical, folks.
Right? No literal chanting from the microbial disco ball. That might worry the neighbors.
Well, we've laughed, we've learned, and we've discovered that we owe a great deal of thanks to the microscopic population living in our guts. They've earned themselves a seat of honor, just not at the dinner table, more like in the dinner table.
Indeed. And that's all for this episode of Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. I'm Ethan Foster, encouraging you to respect the cosmic disco in your gut by feeding it wisely and breathing slowly.
And I'm Alara Sky, reminding you that your next brilliant idea or comedic breakthrough might just be fueled by acetate and propionate. Until next time, remember, your biggest ally might be too small to see.
That's a wrap, folks. Stay curious, stay healthy, and keep those gut microbes humming.
Catch you on the next show, everyone.